Bulls Nation, today we continue the discussion of free agency and some players that could really help the Chicago Bulls. And this is going to be a very interesting player in the end. I think many people are well aware of Spencer Dinwiddie, what he's been able to do throughout the course of his career and whatnot. And it's a very, very interesting topic to discuss. So without further ado, we're going to be discussing Spencer Dinwiddie and what he could bring to the Chicago Bulls. Without further ado, let's discuss him in this video. Let's do it. What's up, everybody? It's the Aidan Sports Show, and welcome back to another video. Today, we've got a Chicago Bulls related video, and this one is discussing the free agency period. Once again, we're going to be continuing to discuss potential players that could come into this Chicago Bulls team and what impact they could make on this Chicago Bulls team. We've got a very interesting player to talk about today, and I'm sure you already know from the intro, we're going to be discussing Spencer Dinwiddie. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Aidan Sports Show YouTube channel, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about Spencer Dinwiddie. What could he bring to the Chicago Bulls, and do you think he's a viable option at the point guard or even a potentially combo guard position? Spencer Dinwiddie, again, very upsetting what happened to him this season with his torn ACL, I believe, and of course he missed a lot of the season, all of the season pretty much, only really played 3 games this season. Very, very upsetting to see that happen to a player like Spencer Dinwiddie. In the end, he's definitely a character in the NBA, someone that I think most people tend to gravitate towards because of his character, and it sucks to see that he just didn't end up getting healthy enough to come back at the right place for Spencer Dinwiddie and the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, Spencer Dinwiddie, in terms of his stats this season, does not mean much, but I will still read them out to you anyway. He's played 3 games in the 2020-2021 season. His averages was 6.7 points per game, 4.3 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, shooting 37% from the field and 23% from the three-point line. Spencer Dinwiddie, of course, as I said before, he did get injured, so these stats are really not that important in my opinion. But overall, Spencer Dinwiddie is one of those players that every single year he's gotten better and better and better and better. And that is someone that you obviously want on your team if you're a Chicago Bulls player, Chicago Bulls fan. You want players that will continue to get better every single year. That's why a lot of players, a lot of fans like Zach LaVine and what he's been able to do from basically a rookie that wasn't expected to do much to now in the USA team, and so now being an all-star. You love those types of players. Obviously, Spencer Dinwiddie's not at that caliber just yet. But in the end, there's potential for him in this team, and there's potential for him to do something at the end of the day. He's 28 years old, I believe. He's definitely not a spring chicken. He's relatively experienced in the NBA. He's definitely someone that has had a lot of NBA experience. And funnily enough, throughout the 6 years that he's been in the NBA, he's played for the Chicago Bulls before. I don't know his stats on the Bulls, and again, it's not really a long period of time that he was on the Bulls, but in 2016, he was on the Chicago Bulls. He was playing for our team, and obviously he didn't get a lot of game time and a lot of experience in this team. And yeah, he had a lot more experience on the Detroit Pistons and the Brooklyn Nets than the Chicago Bulls. But the question is, does he fit what we need? In my opinion, he's kind of one of those players that doesn't necessarily fit every single need that we have. I think he's a relatively good defender in my opinion. Spencer Dinwiddie is the type of guy that likes to slash to the ring. He has a somewhat decent three-point shot. His averages throughout the entirety of his career is 31%. Not the best, not the worst. It's a little bit below average, to be fair. But he's mainly a slashing player. He's definitely a player that gets his bread and butter when he's cutting to the ring, and that definitely helps the Chicago Bulls. The reality is we're a team that likes the ball movement, and we like players to cut, and Spencer Dinwiddie will fit that very, very nicely. And of course, his assisting, his playmaking has gotten better every year. His defense is solid. He's definitely someone that you could put into this team, and I think this team does do well. But is he worth it for the Chicago Bulls? Do the Chicago Bulls want to bring a player like Spencer Dinwiddie in? In my opinion, there are 2 reasons why Spencer Dinwiddie would want to leave the Brooklyn Nets. A, money. He wants to get paid. He's definitely a player that has been well recognized around the league. Obviously, he's not going to get big money, but he could get a lot more money than probably what he's on right now. And 2, He wants a fresh start in a starting position. He wants to be a starter in the NBA. That's another reason why I could see him leaving. And at the end of the day, that point guard position is wide open for Spencer Dinwiddie right now. If he really wanted to leave the Brooklyn Nets to join the Chicago Bulls and to become a Chicago Bulls point guard and become really an effective Bulls point guard at that, the spot is wide open for him right now. So there is an opportunity for him to get what he wants, to get a little bit more money and to get his starting position in the NBA. But I'm going to be honest with you, just like I've been honest throughout this whole experience, Spencer Dinwiddie is definitely not my first option. At the end of the day, he did have that ACL injury, and of course that sucks. And I'm all for giving players another chance when they've come back from injury. We've seen with Zach LaVine that sometimes these injuries do not hurt players as much as you think they would. But you've seen with other players like Derrick Rose and among other players as well, it has affected them for a long period of time, and it takes them years and years and years to get back to where they should be or back to where they were. And the fact of the matter is, Spencer Dinwiddie is someone I'd like to take a chance on, but I can't lie and say he's my first option. At the end of the day, he fits our needs a little bit more than what most point guards I've talked about, but in my opinion, Lonzo Ball is probably still the first option over Spencer Dinwiddie. There's probably a few players that I haven't even discussed yet that would be a better option, in my opinion, than Spencer Dinwiddie. But the reality is he does make this team a little bit better. And that's what we want. We want to be better as a team. Spencer Dinwiddie would come into this team and he would definitely make us better. So the question is, would you want to take a chance? And would you be willing to pay Spencer Dinwiddie? I think for the cap space that we have, I think we can definitely afford Spencer Dinwiddie on this team. And in reality, when it comes to, do you want to take the risk on him? I would be down to take a risk on him, to be honest. I think at the end of the day, players that have something to prove, like Spencer Dinwiddie would probably have something to prove, I can't see too many negatives in that at the end of the day. So we're going to have to wait and see in that retrospect. Obviously, as I've mentioned before, and this video is going to be relatively short once again, Spencer Dinwiddie is not my first option. I don't want to say he's going to be my first option for really any position, even the shooting guard position. He's definitely someone that makes our starting lineup a bit better. He's definitely someone you could put onto the bench and he could do better there. But at the end of the day, I do think we need to pursue other options outside of Spencer Dinwiddie, but I would not be opposed to bringing him to the Chicago Bulls. In my opinion, he's around the middle of the pack for me in terms of the guards that I want on this team. He's definitely a realistic option, which makes a lot of people very excited. He's someone that could definitely be a realistic option, but I don't think he's my first choice, and that is all I really need to say in that retrospect. But if he does come to this team, once again, similar to all players, I'll give him my full support. I'll back him until he's no longer a Chicago Bull, and we keep pushing, we keep on going, and let's see what happens in terms of Spencer Dinwiddie. The thing about Spencer Dinwiddie that I think many people need to understand as well is I'm talking about him as a free agent, because the reality is he is going to be making $13 million next season, but that's only if he accepts his player option. So it's basically up to Spencer Dinwiddie at the moment whether he wants to accept the player option and stay on the Brooklyn Nets and fight for a championship for one more year before he decides to leave, or if he wants to leave now. And that is definitely something that Spencer Dinwiddie in the end needs to decide for himself. That's going to be a very interesting topic at the end of the day. He's a realistic option still, in my opinion. But the fact of the matter is, he could very well have something to prove and would want to prove it in Brooklyn, who again did not see the best out of Spencer Dinwiddie this season. But at the end of the day, being on the bench for some people is just too much to handle. If Spencer Dinwiddie wants to get the best out of his career, you have to choose between starting on a team that's not going to win a championship or becoming a bench player that could potentially win a championship. It's a very hard reality to face, and a lot of players have a difficult decision to make in that area. So Spencer Dinwiddie has a difficult decision to make. Obviously, the Chicago Bulls, I think, would be interested in this if there's an opportunity. Again, not the first option by any stretch of the means, but he's definitely an option that I would consider on this team. And let's see what happens with Spencer Dinwiddie. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you're new. If you guys want me to discuss any other players, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. Obviously, there are a lot of players still that we have yet to discuss. I still have a little bit more in mind in terms of what we could be discussing as the Chicago Bulls. And we still have a long way to go until we get the team that we're looking for. What's going to change? Who's going to be here? Who's not going to be here? We still have a long way to go, and we will continue those discussions in future videos. Have the wonderful and safe day, Bulls Nation. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video. Take care and peace.